Hello people, today I'm going to be showing you how to set up the gears on a Sturmey Archer 4-speed hub, typically found on the old English roadsters. Usually the top end bikes had the 4-speed, quite often it'll be an FG, which is what this one is. And the process of setting up and adjusting the gears differs slightly to the 3 speeds. It certainly caught me out the first time, so I'm going to show you how to do it properly and effectively. Now, first things first, just a note of advice that when you are storing or not using these bikes, always select the highest gear. That takes the strain off the cable and also the hub gear mechanism. It just relieves all the tension from it, because as you will know, it's quite heavily sprung, which is how it works in a way. So this is a typical setup, and this is the correct setup. You'll see that is an FG hub, dated November 1959, so this bike is probably 1960, probably when it left the factory. And you will notice that there is a solid axle nut on the right hand side with no window, and on the left hand side is the nut with the window. And you will see there is a rod sticking out, a plunger. Now that is important, because that is what you need to be looking at when you are setting up these gears. There's the window for it and there's the plunger. But first things first, you see on the end there, you can see that there is, it's got a drop of oil on it. I've just oiled this hub, but you can see that there is a slotted end. Now that needs to be screwed up, not mega tight, but it needs to be screwed in to the hub, because it's in 2 parts inside. There's this part, the plunger, and then the other part here is the chain. So those 2 parts come together in the middle and they screw into one another. It's a very fine thread, so it can easily be damaged. So with a small screwdriver, just nip that up. That's all you need to do, just nip it up, because it has been known for these to come loose and they come flying out of here, flying out, never to be seen again. And as parts for these 4 speeds are getting harder to find and expensive, it's best to take care of what you've got, which also involves making sure the gears are correctly adjusted. So you've seen the plunger rod. So the next step is, providing your cable is in good condition and everything else. This is the original cable, not one of the later ones where you have the nut on there and the bare cable wire, not the universal one. This is the proper cable, as all these old bikes were fitted with, not the later style. You've got the little wheel there, the little guide wheel, that needs to be free to move. This screw should be done up reasonably tightly. That shouldn't be loose, because it's designed to be free to move with that tight. So that should be free. The clamp should be tight, and I'll mention more about that later. The cable clamp on the top tube. So now for the main event. To adjust the gears, first of all, select second. That's second. That's first, yep, second gear. So you've selected second there on the trigger. Coming back down to the business end. Okay, so you can now see that the rod is no longer visible through the window. That is because it is now flush with the axle end. This is how it should be. You might have to tweak it a bit, you know, a little further adjustment, but that will make itself known after a road test, because if the gears are slipping, you have to stop and adjust them immediately. Slipping gears are no good, and they can end up being seriously damaged. So that is now correctly set up. Once you have the plunger level with the axle end, that is now set up to use in all gears, and it's ready for a road test. And I shall just operate the trigger just to show you that at work. So we're in second, third, fourth, third, second. Can you see that yet? Just about. First. So you adjust these in the usual way. I mean, anybody who's had Sturmey Archer gears before, I mean, that's needs no introduction. That's how you adjust it. You just make sure that the knurled lock nut is finger tight afterwards. You only use your fingers on these. You never use any tools to tighten them. So you just want the lock nut finger tight. Now, another point worthy of mention is that if you were struggling to adjust the gears and you've got the correct cable and it's in situ on the wheel like so, if you were still struggling to adjust the gears, then it may be that this requires moving, because that will either increase or reduce the length of cable available down there. So if you still, after what I've said, cannot get the gears, this may need to come either forwards or backwards a little bit. You want some of the screw thread showing like that, because that leaves room for adjustment, and it's not at either the very end, you know, just biting by a few threads, nor is it right up to the end there. So you want this to be, you know, it needs to be secure. If you imagine these screw threads go up inside here, this needs to be about half or 2/3 of the way along, like so. And that can be facilitated by careful adjustment of that bracket on the top tube up there. So the only thing left to say now is that first gear on these 4 speeds is very strongly spring loaded. This has often caused a lot of frustration, because one of the faults you get on these is jumping out of first gear. I shall be dealing with that fault in another video, and I will show you the solution to it. But just to show you what I mean by it being very strongly sprung in first, just listen to this. You see how fierce that was going into second. compared to the other gears. That's a nice smooth click. First, very strongly sprung, and as you use first or bottom gear, if you like, when you're climbing hills, you're assaulting a steep hill, you need all the momentum you can get. The chain and the gears are under a lot of strain, under a lot of force from pedalling uphill. You do not want it to be slipping out of first and into second. It did occur on this bike when I got it, but I have rectified it and I've not had any further trouble since. So as I said, that will form the basis of another video. If you have one of these 4 speeds and it's jumping out of first into second, just stay tuned to the channel, because I will be dealing with that shortly. Okay, so that is it. You can now go forth and pedal in confidence on your 4-speed, knowing that all the gears are nicely adjusted, there's not going to be any trouble with them, and everything is hunky-dory. But I'll just briefly recap just once more. To adjust the gears, set them up correctly, you want the trigger in second, like so. You come down to the hub. That's how you adjust them there. With these, slacken the lock nut, and then you turn this to either move the plunger in or out. And with the lever in second gear, you want the plunger just flush with the end of the axle, like so, seen through the window there. Okay, well, thank you for watching. I hope this has been informative, and as I say, stay tuned for some future videos on this and my other bikes and cars and all the usual long obsolete stuff. Thanks for watching.